Everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Adorkable Rachel, and it's time for another episode of Rachel Reviews, so let's just hop into it. Oh my gosh, I'm back finally. I know I've been a little bit off the radar the last couple weeks, but I have a good excuse. I actually booked a reality show. Not the kind that you're probably thinking of, like where it's a competition or anything like that, but it is technically a reality show, and it's coming out next year. I can't say anything about it right now, but it did occupy a lot of my time. I was on set for like 12 to 16 hours. It was really hard to do anything but that and sleep. And also right after that, my mom was in town for a few days. But that's all over with. I'm all done with it. Now I can finally focus more on this. I can focus more on other things I enjoy doing. Also, some of you are probably already aware that I did get the chance to see this like a week or so before it came out. But again, it was really hard to not go do this show and sleep. So finally now, even though it's already out, I'm gonna review it. So let's get started with reviewing Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ant-Man and the Wasp is the 20th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe franchise, and it's also the very first one to finally have a female superhero in the title. Yep, it only took 10 years and 20 cinematic films, but we finally have a female superhero front and center in an MCU film. The film takes place following the events of Captain America Civil War, with Scott Lang on the tail end of his house arrest from fighting alongside Captain America in Germany 2 years prior. If by chance you were hoping that this was going to answer some questions from Avengers Infinity War, no, don't expect anything like that, because this is really not that type of movie. We've got a long ways to go between now and Avengers 4, and this is kinda just a filler movie. However, there is some stuff that pops up in this movie that will probably be important in the next Avengers film, so just be patient. I really like the first Ant-Man movie because, among a lot of other really fun and enjoyable aspects in that film, what I appreciate most about it is that they took something that was just so insanely silly on paper, hence why we've probably never really seen an Ant-Man TV show or anything outside the comic books until now, but they just made it into this really fun and workable movie. I mean, it's a guy who shrinks down and is the size of an ant and fights crime, and he can control ants. Like, that's kind of dumb when you think about it. But at the same time, put Paul Rudd in there and a really awesome director, and yeah, it's a really awesome movie. The new movie does the exact same thing here too, but in my opinion, they also take more advantage of the comedy angle, and also there is a heavier focus on the theme of family in this one too. In fact, let's just say that they take more advantage of pretty much everything from the last film, because in my opinion, this movie is so much better. I feel like the first movie was pretty confident with its execution, but you can also kind of tell that they're holding back a little bit because they're taking such a huge risk. But in this one, they don't care anymore. They know what they're doing is awesome, and they just fly with like everything they could possibly do. And man, do they have so much fun with it. Scott is recruited by Hope and Hank to assist in a mission to rescue Hope's mother, who was lost in the quantum realm years ago during a mission. Hope, of course, takes on her own suit, going by the Wasp, and the two team up not just to retrieve a device that will help them access the quantum realm, but also to fight off a villain known as Ghost, who is able to phase through objects and who wants the device for her own personal gain. And I mean, being able to phase, that's a pretty awesome and effective counterattack to people who are able to shrink down. Also, I think it's worth mentioning that the Ghost gender was changed to female in this movie after always being portrayed as a male in the comics. And I just want to put it out there that I think that's really cool, because according to the writers, her gender was always irrelevant in the comics, so why not change it to female? That's just, I don't know, I just really like that. While Ant-Man and the Wasp is not a super stylized movie like Thor Ragnarok was, it actually does still come out as one of the funnier MCU movies I think I've ever seen. It's very much a comedy movie, and let's face it, we kinda needed that after Avengers Infinity War. A lot like the first film, this one takes so much advantage of the silly concepts and characters and really helps bring out the comedic dialogue and humorous action, but it also takes itself seriously enough that it's still action-packed. And it's totally badass too. Pew, 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 pew. This movie just seems to have just the right amount of both, and it really uses the over-the-top concepts to its advantage. There's this really big action sequence throughout San Francisco in this movie, and it is just so creatively funny. But it also gets your heart pumping for those really thrilling moments. And there does tend to be some stand-up kind of dialogue in this movie, which to me was a little bit distracting, and most of it did come from Michael Peña's character. But to be fair, he also was pretty funny most of the time, and a lot of times when there was stand-up kind of dialogue, what they were talking about did come into play later in the film, so I guess I'll give it a pass. Also, thank goodness, the villain isn't so bland this time around. MCU has gotten a lot better with its villains over the past couple of years, but man, there was just a time there where it felt like every villain they were pushing out just had no personality and hardly anything memorable about them. But I do like that in this movie, Hannah John-Kamen does bring a tragic empathy to her character. And like I said before, this villain does have a very effective power for this kind of superhero, and it's also understandable why she wants to reverse her power and be normal again. Even though I do kind of feel like her backstory was a little bit rushed, and it did kind of feel like it was just thrown in there so that she would have a backstory. But luckily, her motivation and her actions did make it feel all the more powerful. And I also really like the effects in this movie, because just like the last one where they shrunk the characters down and they made little things seem really big in comparison, in this movie they also do a lot more of just taking small things and then making them really big. And they just come up with so many creative and comedic ideas on how to utilize that. The action scenes are really funny, but they're also really comedic and imaginative because of this. And another thing that I admire about the effects is that there are quite a few flashbacks in this movie that have actors that are older, and they portray them looking younger in the past, and whether it's the makeup or the effects or both, some kind of combination, I actually don't have a problem with believing that that is their younger selves. With all the complaints we have with CGI people and effects done by computers, it's surprisingly good. The chemistry between the leads is especially great in this movie. I think that because of the advertising, we kind of had this idea that there was going to be a bit of a gender competition between the two, but we actually don't get that. And I think the film is all the better for it. If anything, I think Scott was just jealous that Hope had wings, which I think is actually a bit more legit. I want wings. Come on, who doesn't want wings? Also, thank goodness, Hope finally has more to do in this movie. I think one of the complaints from the first Ant-Man film is that Hope didn't do a whole lot even though she was able to, but in this one, yeah, she has to do more because she's in the title, and they utilize her character and her abilities really well. If I had to be really picky, I'd say I kind of wish that she did have some more comedic moments, because it does feel like all the funny does come from the men in this movie. And I get it, she's supposed to be like the straight man to the goofy characters, but it would have been nice to have some humor come from a female character. But again, I'm just being really nitpicky. It's really hard to dig on this movie because it was just so much fun. Yeah, there's some stuff that's rushed in there. Yeah, some of the really comedic moments can be a little distracting, but it's also just meant to be more playful. While Ant-Man and the Wasp is definitely nowhere near as good as Avengers Infinity War or even any of the Guardians films or Thor Ragnarok, it's still a lot of fun, and it is a filler film, but it's a really good filler film. Like I said, the last one was really depressing and kind of a downer, so I'm kind of happy that we had something that was a little more light this time. It's not meant to be taken seriously, it's not meant to be anywhere near as good as those films, it's just meant to be a lot of fun. Plus, there's no denying that it's really cool to see all these characters together again and seeing them create even stronger bonds. If you want to go see a superhero film that does feel more like a comic book movie and doesn't take itself seriously, then this is definitely the movie for you. And as I said, this movie does not tie in with the Avengers Infinity War narrative per se, but it's a big but. You better make sure you stay for the credits. I know it seems like a given if you're a big fan of these movies, but things... I can't say it. No, you're not gonna get me, no, you're not gonna get me to say it. Nuh-uh, I'm sorry, I can't. You're gonna be shocked. You're gonna be a little trolled. It might be a surprise. Some of you may see what's coming, but it's, there's no denying that it still will, keep you on the edge of your seat for a second there. While Ant-Man and the Wasp doesn't exactly stand out like a lot of the other MCU films, that doesn't stop it from having a lot of heart and also just being such a really emotionally and creatively charged thrill ride. It's a great pick-me-up after the last film, the action is a lot of fun, intense, and hilarious at times, and it also goes to show that even silly concepts can make you have all the feels. Definitely check it out this summer because it is the MCU film that fulfills all the anticipation of all ages. Ant-Man. So those are my thoughts on Ant-Man and the Wasp, so now I want to know, what did you guys think of the movie? Do you like this one better than the first one? Do you think that the first one had more going for it? Also let me know if you were Ant-Man or the Wasp, how would you utilize your powers? What would you make bigger? What would you make smaller? How would you use it? And finally, are there any other movies coming out soon that you want me to do a review of? Well, go ahead and leave your comments below, be sure to like and share, and if you're new and like what you saw here, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and also be sure to hit the little bell button down there to get notified when new stuff comes out, because I make new videos every week! Most of the time. Bye, Adorkable Betties! I'll definitely see you soon.